Welcome to an episode of Explore Randolph County. I am JR. This is my brother Justin.
Randolph. We've not done many in Randolph County.
No, I think this will be our first one.
They don't have the pleasure
County.
of knowing how much fun we can bring to a county.
Yeah. Randolph County, the biggest county in West Virginia,
geographically. Yeah.
Square mileage or whatever.
1,040 square miles.
Okay.
I guess that's a lot.
So what's happening in Randolph County?
Well, we're preparing for our Rockin' New Year's Eve event, December 31st in Harman. So we're getting ready to throw a big New Year's event, free
horse-drawn
kids,
sled rides,
live music, food, fireworks at
midnight, all free. Yep. Everything's free.
Getting ready for that. But in the meantime, the County Board of Education released paperwork saying they want to close the Harman School and another school, Pickens School. These are two K through 12 schools in the county of Randolph. So they're dealing with that situation right now in the midst. I think maybe 2 months ago or whatnot. This was released by the superintendent.
So it's a word, I can't remember when we talked about it once. Well, I was interviewing somebody, but consolidation.
Correct. They won't say closure. Closure sounds bad.
Yeah.
We're going to consolidate. Yeah, but they're not consolidating Elkins to Harman. They're consolidating Harman and Pickens to Elkins. So it's closing Harman and Pickens schools and sending them into Elkins. And there's an impact statement they released. They say there's a projected $1.2 million cost savings closing Harman. So I emailed the I don't know if it's called treasurer for the school. I don't know what the title was.
We lovingly call them bookkeepers.
Whatever they're called. We can text our bookkeeper friend now. He's been very nice to us, which is good. But I emailed him asking him, where's that 1.2 million come from? So we're trying to dig into the finances and all that stuff. So there's two sides to this conversation. There's the number side, and the money side is not their friend, obviously. And then there's the emotional, mental health. Does this make sense to send kids over the mountain?
I do have a question, because you're saying they said closing Harman will save them $1.2 million. What's Harman's operating budget now?
According to them, and as you know, when we dug into numbers in Grant County, it was really hard to understand truly everything, because there's different accounts. So on page 15 of this, the estimated budget for Harman K through 12 is $1.76 million.
Okay, so what they're telling me, I want to see if I get this right, that it's only to ship all these kids to Elkins is only gonna cost them $500,000.
So
for everything, that would be for new teachers, for the travel and everything. That's what I'm understanding.
Correct.
If it's a $1.7 million budget and they say they're saving 1.2, then $500,000 is all it's going to take to educate these kids, ship these
106 kids,
and feed these kids.
104 kids.
Okay.
And the state gives between $10,000 and $12,000 per kid. So the kids get $1.2 million, $1.3 million in state money. So they're seeing this, I'm a business guy, right? So I would say, as a business, this is a great idea. Shut the school down. We'll make an extra $500,000.
No, but you're not getting the question I'm asking where the math is not mathing.
Go slow then for me. I'm not very good at this.
So they're saying that the whole budget is $1.7 million.
To operate the Harman School.
To operate the school.
Correct.
Okay. They're saying that they're in the hole also, right?
They're saying that it's 1.7, and they haven't given the actual revenue side of it. We're projecting it's 1.2, 1.3. That's what we're projecting.
Okay. So 1.7 is what it's costing. But they say they're going to save 1.2.
Correct.
So what they're saying is to teach 104 kids, to teach them, to transport them
far,
and to feed them
$500,000
only going to be $500,000 a year.
So here, and I emailed the treasurer, bookkeeper, whatever you want. I think his name is Brad. I've never dealt with him before. I emailed and said, what does that 1.2 million mean? Because there's going to be some, in my opinion, there's going to be staff that are, it's called Rift, that are going to be asked to leave, which is interesting because, and this is me hearing it second, what's it called? Secondhand. I heard secondhand that if any of the teachers spoke out against this, that the superintendent would smack their hand, which I think is illegal, because isn't it freedom of speech? I mean,
no. It all depends.
Well, there's freedom of speech.
There's freedom of speech. There's not freedom of consequence. Freedom of speech is only from the government side.
Okay, so if
not your employer. My employer can tell me. I work for the city of Petersburg.
Understand.
They can tell me, shut up or you're fired. And that's not illegal.
So here's the thing, though. They are not employed. Don't the school teachers, they don't report to a union, they report to an association,
They
right?
report for an association, so since it's not a union, they don't have the same protections.
Okay. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Even if it's not,
it's not smart to do.
It just shows me an insecure leader in a county,
But the NFL did it. They fined Nick Bosa for wearing a Trump hat. For wearing a MAGA hat, because in their
contract.
Rules, they have to do this.
So apparently the teachers sign rules on social media where they can't speak their mind. Apparently,
well, because I know teachers have gotten fired for a picture showing up with them drinking alcohol with a kid in the background. Like you're at a birthday party.
Yeah,
there's a kid. So there are rules that they have to follow.
Okay.
It's not smart on their part to, especially when you're trying to shut it down, say they can't speak against it.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts are these teachers are going to lose jobs. Now, I'm sure it's based on seniority stuff, but I'm thinking, well, gee, if I'm going to lose my job or I'm going to drive an extra hour and a half a day, that's my job.
Well, wasn't one of the reasons besides saving the money, and I'm just going by what you told me, was also they're having trouble getting teachers?
So this was told to me by a person I can't mention. They said that, because my question to, and I'm going to say his name, I don't think he'll mind this. He got voted in the Senate. He's been very nice. Let me tell you his name. I think it's the county, obviously. It wouldn't be our county here. Robbie Morris. It is very nice. So I asked Robbie Morris, I said, hey, I heard that the state of West Virginia was putting pressure on the counties to close schools because there's a teacher shortage. And so the thought process was, and so I was told by someone else in a high position that the state of West Virginia is saying, we're not closing schools to save money, we're closing it because we need teachers. So then the question becomes Pickens, which is, I did a map because you were asking me yesterday about, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but I printed a map of the county. Pickens is even further away than Elkins. But the question is, if you, let's say, of course, you travel for your job. You can look Google.com, Google Maps. So here is Elkins. Here's Pickens. It's the largest county. Here's Harman over here. So if you're a teacher, if they're really doing this to close because they don't have enough teachers, how many teachers are really going to travel over? Now, I know seniority and retirement, is good for the teachers.
Well,
I get that.
But you also have to think, if I'm a teacher from Pickens, and I'm like, okay, I have an hour drive every day for the same amount of money, am I just going to quit and not take the hour drive? Or if I'm at my years of service, but I wanted to, am I just going to, maybe that's what they're hoping.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if, we know some teachers, obviously, and I'm assuming, I've never asked dollars, but I'm assuming the retirement's very good and the insurance is very good, right? And somebody I was texting this morning about how the state of West Virginia puts into play what the teachers make. And this is something to remember, not the people at the board office and not principals.
Yeah.
Is that correct? The
principals, the board office, they all get voted on what they make by the Board of Education.
Correct.
So you could pay Dilly $1.5 million if you wanted to. Yeah. There's no cap on what they make.
Hey, listen, we talked last night, we were talking about salaries, and I don't think a superintendent, I know the superintendents make six figures. I don't think that's unrealistic. That's a big job. That's a lot of responsibility. So the superintendents make, 6 figures, whether that's good or bad. The Board of Education member, someone asked about that. I said, they make like $150 to $200 a meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, the Board of Education members didn't take this job to get rich. They took it to make a difference. I'm assuming, right? So
well, I don't know why they take it, because they say to make a difference. Well, I guess a difference can be bad or good. So
well,
you can make a difference on the negative side and say, I made a difference.
Well, that's true.
I allow cat litter in schools.
Well, some Loudoun County knows about that, but so there's so many pieces to it, and I'm just trying to educate. That's the big thing.
Who is actually behind pushing for this consolidation, closure, whatever you want to call it? Is it the Board of Education? Is it the superintendent? Is it the state? Like, who's actually the one that's saying, this makes sense. Let's do this.
So I'm not going to use a name just to be respectful, but I had one of the Randolph Board of Education members email me. So I asked her a question. Who is pushing for the Harman School to be closed? Is it the superintendent? The conversation start with the superintendent, which is Dilly. And I don't know Dilly personally, obviously. I know he worked for Mineral, and Mineral did not renew his contract. So traditionally, I guess you don't say it's fired, but he was there and they didn't renew him. So they didn't rehire him. In the world of business, that means they want you out. And then he went to Randolph. So I said, is it the superintendent? Is it the state of West Virginia Board of Education? Or is it the Randolph County Board of Education that initiated this? And so the email back to me said, the superintendent has to follow state guidelines and not go into a deficit. So I'm assuming with the multiple schools in such a big county, I was told by Robbie Morris that the money they get isn't based on the geography, it's based on the number of students.
So how much does Randolph County get?
So their budget, it's on my laptop. Their budget for this year or next year, I think it's like $55 million. And so I'm assuming most of that state money. I think last year was $44 million or whatnot.
So they got an $11 million bump.
And so
and they can't.
I have to show you. This is projected for 2025. It's $44 million was this year. I'm speaking off of my head. I got the treasurer sent the Harman people. He sent them information on that, and so I'm pretty sure it was 44, and this year was 55, which I'm not sure where that comes from, because an 11 million bump is like pretty big.
That's a big bump for someone that doesn't have a levy of any type.
Well, I was told, and this is what I was told in the meetings I was at in Harman, that the levy's never passed in Randolph. So some people could say, well, hey, look at what's happened without a levy. Grant County should be glad they have a levy, right? But I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. There is not a revenue issue in any government. It's always a spending issue. And people hate that.
So the question becomes, what are they spending their money on?
So that's the question. So they emailed over. So last night I got an email from one of the parents that had zip files. And if you're emailing zip files, what does that mean?
They're huge.
It means, and so I got it. I got it last night at like 9:00 after I drove home from Harman, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't. I can print them and we can have people kind of disperse it and read it, but I'm like, I'm going to bed. It was too much for me to dive into. So I'm not sure of all the financial ins and outs. I mean,
because we saw a lot of, and remember, we have to say this because we went through this with Grant County. We're not saying anyone is embezzling money.
Yeah, we're talking about wisdom.
We're talking about wisdom.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of waste.
Correct.
In Grant County. The amount of waste was just ridiculous.
I heard that in Grant County, someone at the board office got a $50,000 raise.
Yes.
Was that true?
We haven't even talked about that yet.
$50,000 raise.
$50,000.
One person.
Yeah.
So the taxpayers in Grant County are, hey, listen.
Oh, they're so happy they have that levy. They get to help the kids by paying their administration more.
Well, just to explain to people, because I really like to be educational. What happens when you have a levy? There's your general fund where you would pull monies out to do some of the things in the levy. Now the levy pays for them, so your general fund has more funds to use in what you feel is best. And the Board of Education members vote on that. Yeah. So that $50,000 raise was.
And I don't want to make this video about Grant County, but they have They have so much money now that supposedly now this is rumor. I've not got to verify it, but it was from a source well in the know. They're putting in a teachers-only workout facility.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I
mean, no, you're not a teacher.
Hey, it's all taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
And so that's the question.
So what are they misspending?
We talk about wisdom, and we know Elon Musk, whether you like the Republicans or Democrat, he's been put in a role to go in and slash
combat government waste.
Correct. So when he bought Twitter, he let go 80% of the employees.
And it's running fine.
80% of the employees.
Yeah. There's that much waste.
So anyway, I asked your earlier question, who's starting this? So the email back was the superintendent has to follow state guidelines, can't go into the deficit. They want full classrooms in schools. We actually get lower chances of getting SBA funds, which we learned about that because didn't Grant County get SBA funds to build the pre-K or preschool or something like that?
Which it's the thing kind of with the firemen here locally. We've had so many levies trying to pass in Grant County.
Yeah.
The firemen put out, hey, if we pass this levy, they give us an extra $3 million above the $3 million that we already get.
Yeah.
And to me, if you're tying money to money, you're double dipping taxpayers because it's still even SBA money is still taxpayers' money.
I agree.
So either you're going to give them the money, you don't tell them to come up with another $3 million of taxpayers' money to give them $3 million of taxpayers' money.
Well, here's the thing. I've been very clear on my feedback on taxes, but I am very sympathetic to the volunteer fire department. They're volunteers.
Yeah.
So seeing that their levy didn't pass because the school put them out of their levy so they could have a lower percentage needed, I thought that was a bit.
Yeah.
I won't say what I think it is, but I felt bad for the fire departments. They're all freaking volunteers. They're not getting $50,000 raises.
But what we're finding out is the school system is crap, and the people who run it are crap.
Leadership is always an issue,
and it's one of the reasons why I homeschool. And I say to the Harman people, if you can homeschool, homeschool, because you're still going to get a better education than even sending them to Elkins. Even if you're for sending them to Elkins and you're like, oh, this is great, you'll get a better education at home.
So a lot of the parents are saying homeschool, and the challenge is that you're fortunate enough where you can be home with your daughter.
Okay, so I was listening to a guy talk about this.
Let me finish. So the challenge is in some homes, some of them are single parents with 2 or 3 jobs. So some of them, it's not like, hey, you can do it in the evenings, you can do it on the week. Some of them have multiple jobs and they have to work constantly because they may be making minimum wage or whatnot.
It takes 2 hours. That's it. 2 hours a day.
Okay. What I'm saying is you have 2 hours a day. Some of these parents may not have 2 hours a day. But I'm not saying homeschool is bad. A lot of them are saying, we're not giving our money to the county. We're going to homeschool our kids. Let me finish my email, though. I've been trying to get through.
And with Trump, if he passes what he says, if you homeschool,
$10,000.
you get $10,000 from the government.
We'll wait and see if that makes it through.
You can quit your job and actually be ahead. If you have 2 jobs, you could quit it and be further ahead.
We'll see if he gets it through. That's tough because that's a state decision. That's tough. Anyways, currently we are approximately 30 positions over the state formula. 30 positions.
Okay, so that's a leadership issue.
Okay, hold on.
They're hiring too many teachers.
Well, the thing is, when you have multiple locations and you have...
That all gets put into the school aid formula. Yeah. What they're doing is they're putting in too many teachers to keep the class sizes smaller in a certain area than they need.
Well,
like the teachers don't want to teach 30 kids, but you can teach 30 kids.
But let's back into that. The challenge is in smaller schools is 30 kids is 5 grades. That's the challenge. It's not like, hey, Petersburg High School or Elkins, which are large. I mean, Elkins is larger, of course, than Petersburg. One teacher is teaching one class to 30 kids. It's different when you have 104 kids K through 12. That means there is approximately 10 kids in a grade, if that, right? So a lot of the teachers teach multiple grades or multiple classes, which is tough. I mean, we know with Union, when we were dealing with in Grant County, how tough it was there. So let me finish this. Jeez.
Okay.
There are 30 positions over. They have the same number of buildings open they did 8 years ago, and they have 600 less kids than they did 8 years ago. This is where the superintendent makes recommendations for closure. So the superintendent would have made the recommendation, It's happening all over the state in ridiculous numbers. We as BOE, Board of Education, have hearings and then vote on the recommendation up or down. We're also charged with staying in the budget. This I thought was interesting because I heard this in Grant County when the DEI or whatever the items were coming into play maybe 2-3 years ago. We can be held personally liable for knowingly going into deficit spending. So I don't know. I remember hearing that. So what the email is saying that the Board of Education members can be personally liable. Now, I know running a not-for-profit, I have officer, there's insurance for it. It's called officer and leader, officer and leadership. But I have insurance at the church for those that are in roles of leadership or officers in the church in case something crazy happens. They try to come after you personally. So would the school not have this for the Board of Education members, or could the Board of Education members buy this themselves? Because I
don't know.
So
you can get it yourself, because I'm part of a lot of nonprofit organizations that they told us, hey, we don't provide it, but you can, if you want it, you need to get it for yourself.
It costs money, obviously. Yeah. But I was a bit shocked by that because I remember hearing from in Grant County, they're like, no, we got to let kids go. We got to let boys go in girls' bathrooms or we're going to be sued. And I was like, well, what happened if they go in and they take advantage of a young lady? Wouldn't you be sued in that case? So let's say, for an example, if what this email said is correct, if a bus goes over the mountain because you're going over Rich Mountain, it's not a fun drive. Even to get from here to Harman's tough. And then the other side, you got the Rich Mountain. If the bus wrecks and a kid's injured or killed, then you could sue the Board of Education then. But that doesn't make sense to me.
But that's what you do. That if they want an out, and I'm not going to give my thoughts on pro or con with closing, but if they want an out, you just go to the Board of Education and you say, the first time that there is an accident, we are suing each of you personally.
Well, so to me, that if they're afraid about being personally held liable by the state, I mean, who's going to sue them? The state, because they're deaf. They're in.
Well,
they're
like
in
I
the
said,
red.
I think the Board of Education members, the state Board of Education members, I think they're the biggest bunch of dumb, useless idiots on the world. That's just my personal opinion.
That is now our governor's wife. So
exactly.
Be careful.
Jim Justice is an idiot. So here's the thing.
Talk about what that means, though.
So, they don't do their due diligence in what needs to be done. So here's my question. Did they do a study on how much school time they will now have to lose because of weather traveling over the mountain?
So if you have to close school, so in other words, right now, there's times in Grant County will close the mountain.
Yeah, they'll just say Union is closed.
And keep Petersburg open.
Yeah.
Totally get it. I mean, this Thursday they're calling for like a foot of snow on the mountain and probably nothing here, right? Yeah. Maybe a flurry. And it's the same thing in Harman, up through Canaan. Elkins probably won't get any. So there is in the report, in the impact statement, they talk about it, but they make the travel seem very, it's only an extra 30, 40 minutes, right? So and they haven't talked about the weather.
Yeah. So what happens?
They will put, what they'll do? They'll put the kids on virtual school for the day.
Okay. Which is a abject failure.
And what happened when we did virtual school during COVID?
The grades went down and we're still paying for it. That's what I said.
So that's
they're a bunch
solution.
of educated idiots, which is it's sad, but that's what our Board of Education has become.
So tell the people so for the State Board of Education, who puts them in office? They're not voted in.
They're not voted in.
Who puts them in?
They're appointed by the governor.
And the governor just put his wife in for 9 years.
For 9 years.
And
the average 9-year
average pay is how much? It's about $250,000 for each. So he put his wife in a 9-year, $250,000 job.
Which is why, you touched on it just a little. I'm pretty sure it was Amendment 4. I interviewed John Paul Hott.
Correct.
And people were just up in arms about it. He said that there will be no rules, no new curriculum or anything like that would be allowed to be put in place by the Board of Education without it coming before the governing body to vote and decide.
So explain what that means today. Now what happens?
Now the Board of Education can do anything they want. There's
State Board of
no
Education.
oversight.
Correct.
They can do anything they want,
They're
and you
appointed by the
can't do a
governor.
thing about it.
Appointed by the governor.
There's no oversight.
So I was texting someone this morning that I said, listen, and here's the thing. Amendment 4 was like a year ago. I don't think
No,
people,
it was that would have been
2 years?
2 years.
I don't
two
think
voting.
I don't think people knew what it meant.
Because there was 4 up 4.
And they all 4 got turned down.
Yeah.
And so Amendment
And the
4,
one was actually something that we were illegal in.
Yeah.
It was
the
churches being
an association. Not
which is federally illegal.
Yeah.
And it still got voted down in West Virginia.
So they didn't do a good job really educating people on
Yeah.
that. So the state board of education, because
That's like the right to life one that was up this time. People had no clue about it.
did that pass or did that?
It passed to where you cannot assist in suicide.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
some people thought that saying yes meant that you got to kill people, and then others thought saying yes meant you don't get to kill people, and it ended up being like 51-40. I mean, it was close.
Gotcha.
It was really close.
So I just want to make sure there's clarity. The county board of education members get $150 to $200 a meeting.
Yes.
They may make $4,000 or $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
So the county board of the 5 county board of education
And they
members,
are elected.
correct.
They are elected.
We're talking about the state
We're
board of
talking
education.
about the state board of
They're
education.
put in by the governor. They're not there's no legislator
Who-
keep an eye on it.
It almost sounds like that's who's pushing for this.
So
Even though Dilly could be a mouthpiece.
well, normally they are. I mean, because remember, Dilly has no authority. He
Yes.
has no authority. All the authority lies within the county board of education members. Dilly can't say yes, no, raise, no.
Correct.
It all is done by the board of education members.
Told that
Yeah,
with our
we learned
superintendent.
that.
They are a mouthpiece
Correct.
only. They have no authority whatsoever.
So, and I think that's the email back said she didn't give he or she didn't give a definite. The superintendent has to follow state guidelines is the first thing that was said. So, to answer your question from 20 minutes ago,
Yeah. Who's pushing for this? Well, I think we're getting to it.
yeah,
The state seems like it.
It seems like the state's putting, because someone I spoke to in a high position said the state is pushing us to cut down schools, and they're not saying it's because of money or or it's going to help the children. They're saying we need teachers, but according to the numbers, if they're going to save $1.2 million, there's going to be teachers let go. I think there's 22, 23 staff in Harman, so. I don't know about Pickens. Obviously, Pickens has 28 students. It's a much smaller school, but
And that's rough. That's rough.
So
28 kids.
It's hard. But here's the thing. So we can go from an emotional conversation and the sympathetic side of me that said, I think the firefighters deserve money because they're volunteers, right? The financial side of it, I hate taxes. I pay a lot of tax, not as much as Elon Musk, obviously, but I think he paid like $2 billion. But so the emotional side of me says, you're talking about, so for the school, you're talking about taking kids in a small town, in a small school, and sending them over the mountains. So they'll be on the bus. They are doing, I think they're doing a bus run. They did a bus run last week.
Today. Was it today? I read it in
Pickens did
it was
one
actually
already.
made the Petersburg Buzz.
Yeah. Pickens did one already. And I'm going off my head. I think Pickens, first kid gets picked up 5:17 in the morning, gets dropped off 4 at night. So I sit and I say, hey, maybe because we talked about Shear and even out past to the Mineral County line, how they would come to Petersburg. And I played football with some of them. And I'm sure it was an hour on the bus. So I understand if some people are like, well, that's normal. I'm sitting and saying, oh my God, for an elementary school student to be on
That is a long day. I will concede that.
And then here's the other thing. If they wanted to be in sports, so Harman does have basketball. So let's say that they would make the Elkins, let's just say for the ease of it, the Elkins high school basketball team. Or the Elkins team, did they call you to have you do their games?
No.
They didn't call you to do their games?
No.
Did Petersburg?
No.
Okay. Well, you're not going to get called by Elkins now either,
Yeah.
just for the record.
I'm not going to get called by the State Board of Education either to help out.
Just for the record. People hate that we have these conversations. Anyway, also basketball. So let's say your student makes the Elkins high school basketball team. They stay after school, okay? Now a parent has to drive from the Harman area to Elkins to pick up
Elkins
those
to
two.
pick them up. Or worse, Pickens, because Pickens is further.
Yeah, and I don't know what Pickens. I don't know what they do
Pickens
for sports. I'm
but
not
the
sure.
thing is, Pickens, say Pickens doesn't have a sport, now those 28 kids
Have an opportunity, of course.
to play sports.
I understand that.
But you're going to have to drive an hour and 20 minutes to get them.
It's tough. So financially, as a business guy, I sit and I say, well, this makes sense financially. Yeah. The $500,000, I'm not sure. I asked for that information. Hopefully I get that. I also asked for COVID money information and different things. So what did Grant County get in COVID money?
$6 million.
Was it $6 million?
Mm-hmm.
So they're twice as large. Randolph.
Yeah.
So who knows what they'll get. So, the business side is like, oh yeah, shut them down. But the government doesn't have a money issue. They have a spending issue. That's what I keep saying in my head. It's, first off, they don't pay shareholders like a business does. They don't pay, the owner or whatnot. It's different. So it's all tax money. So I'm sitting here saying, well, wait a minute. Is this good for the kids? I would be furious if my kid had to be on the bus for an hour each way, especially over the mountain. I mean, imagine being put on a bus. Of course, quarter H makes it easier up to Union now. But imagine going to Harman.
Yeah.
You know how that mountain is over the Allegheny Mountain. Imagine doing that every day. Imagine putting your daughter on there. That's why you homeschool,
I
obviously.
homeschool.
But I'd be like, so that's the emotional side. Is it good for the kids?